Yeah, and one of the things that the Pelagians, and this is during 5th century,
Mhm,
some of the Pelagians accused him of bringing some of this Manichaeanism into his view of sin.
mhm.
So, very important question in the Christian teaching is about sin, and this,
Absolutely.
yeah, and this is kind of what me and the resident sleeper got into it about too. It was about the story of the notion of sin, and yeah, I'd like for you to expound on the Manichaeans and Augustine and the Pelagians and maybe what this whole sin thing is about because
Okay, well, that's fair. I will say this, that on the question of sin, St. Augustine really presents it, I would say, in an almost gifted manner. So well, as a matter of fact, that people have been mad at him ever since. And so the point is, the Pelagians were mad at him because they were of the idea that humans could be perfectible regardless. Like you could coincidentally be saved without Christ, and you just had to do all the right things. You could be perfect. And St. Augustine, in response, talked about the natural depravity of man against God and why we need Christ for salvation. And this is part of the reason why the Pelagians hated him, but it's also the reason why every other group that hates St. Augustine hated him afterwards. Because it's always, do I really need that, or aren't I good enough? And ultimately, that's a real question. People love saying that, aren't I good enough? Or do you go to heaven if you're a good person? Like, that's the thinking is, it's again, it's in it right off the bat, it's a cheat code. It's just like find a way to get to salvation without Christ, and it doesn't work. So I think Saint Augustine's presentation ultimately was not only very orthodox, but it changed the shape of the world, and people are still fuming about that 1,600 years later.
hate the sin and not the sinner. Is that a direct quote from him?
Uh, that is such a common quote. I'm gonna have to check. Give me a second.
Yeah, I thought I heard that. Hate the sinner.
Hate the sin,
Hate,
love the
yeah, hate
sinner.
the, yeah, hate the sin, love the sinner. I thought that was his quote. Which is a fascinating one.
I'm trying to see where that came from. Let me see here. Yeah, it's not in the Bible. There's similar concepts, but it's not actually there. Let me see here. Would you believe according to Google, the clearest use of this phrase actually derives from Mahatma Gandhi in his 1929 autobiography? I'm not kidding.
Okay.
I just type it
Mahatma
into
Gandhi.
Google.
Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't see that one
Well,
coming. I thought it
well,
was older than
well.
that.
I thought it came from the Saint Paul quote. In Romans 7, where he says, "It is not me that sin, but the sin living in me that causeth me to sin."
Yeah.
And I thought, poof, man,
Well,
I'll
that's it.
never understand that.
Our human nature is sinful. That's what Augustine got right across the bat. And he
Okay.
basically said, you need Christ because by yourself, you're so messed up, you're never going to get there yourself. And the Pelagians were saying the exact opposite, which is why they hated him so much. Because they were like, of course we can get to heaven by ourselves. And he's like, no, you can't. You're terrible. And so, that it hurts people's pride to hear that. It sends, it kind of makes people think like, what do you mean I'm not good enough? Like we wake up, how many daily affirmation sites are there? How many daily affirmation apps? How many people? It's been. I don't know if you remember Al Franken from Saturday Night Live, where he would do this comedy character. The guy was just like a coach and would be like, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, and people like you." And he would say this to himself in the mirror and like tell people to say that. But the whole point is that's why we live in the world of participation trophies. There's too much affirmation of bad things. We need to get out of that and realize we need to get better. And we get better by coming to Christ. That's how we see it. Yeah.
Yeah, Al Franken. Yeah, it's funny because the only time I heard of Al Franken was when they had all these conspiracy videos going around, and they said
Mhm.
that he wrote in his book that he got a call on September 11th that told him like not to come to work because he was Jewish. And,
Well,
like, it was like this crazy.
first off, you see, if he said that, which I don't doubt it. Al Franken has shown himself to be a real liar over the past few decades. But in the first place, if you know anything about New York, you would know that if he was on Saturday Night Live at that time, NBC filmed at 30 Rock. 30 Rock is it's like 50, 60 blocks from the World Trade Center. It's far away. If he was going to work, there was absolutely no difference that would have happened to him whatsoever on that day. None. And so that sounds like him making up a story that just, and I can
Maybe,
totally see it because he lies a lot.
maybe, yeah, yeah. Al Franken, another part of the, you know, elite Jews that were there during the time of Christ, as well. But yeah,
At least he
what?
wasn't dancing though.
Yes. So you have, yeah. So you have Manichaeans, coming in the, well, well, you have Saint Augustine coming in the 5th century,
Mhm.
and you have lots of interesting concepts with Saint Augustine talking about evil and sin. One of the concepts he came up with was about sin being evil being a premonition on the good. Uh, I don't know if you're
Yeah,
kind of aware.
I'm not familiar with that particular concept. What do you mean by a premonition of the good? Like, you
Well,
mean like kind of like an indicator of future good, or
just the concept that sin, evil is just an absence of good.
okay?
So whereas existence has goodness in it.
Mhm.
Evil is actually like nothingness, or something. Saint Augustine actually
Yeah,
makes that.
I think that one could make that argument that it's the evil is simply the absence of good, but it still produces like abhorrent results in real life. I mean, just to, one of the things that the early fathers taught is that creation before the fall of man, there was no killing, there was no death. And also that insects didn't exist, that they're kind of a byproduct of the fall. But the whole point was like, if you look, as fun as it is to watch a cat kill a mouse some days, when you think about that at its most basic, that's pretty barbaric. And when you think about it in terms of, animals killing humans, humans killing humans, look at the streets in many major cities. Look at, humans are terrible. Like, it's just, we're just terrible at, doing things, because what ends up happening is, um, without God, without the guidance of God, our societies collapse. And we've seen it happen many, many times.